Hey friends, welcome back to Break the Box Podcast. I'm your girl Kalina. Listen, around here, we keep it real, we keep it bold, and we make Jesus make sense. So grab your coffee and come hang out. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Break the Box Podcast. I can't believe it. It is episode 99. We have one more episode till 100. Just super excited to have had guests every single week leading up to this. And so today I have another awesome person that I just feel like is going to bring perspective, is going to kind of share just some honest hot takes of comments and even questions I think a lot of you would want to know. And so will you help me welcome another incredible licensed therapist? Her name is Erim Sarbuland. Welcome, Erim.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Girl, I couldn't thank you enough. I love, you probably heard this from the previous pods. Like, I love therapy. It has been such
Mhm.
something that's impacted me in such a big way, that I love being able to have people who can come on here and just give perspective on like how our
Yeah.
brain works and why it works that way.
Yeah.
Being in, years of ministry, I have a lot of spiritual, perspective, but
Mhm.
sometimes we get people who go, but like, can you back that up? And like, I can back it up scripturally, right?
Right.
But I love when people can kind of come on and go, hey, I have studied why this works and how the processing
Right.
happens and why you're thinking this way. And so
Yeah.
thank you for coming on today to answer some hot take questions. I think that you have such a real approach to things. And so I think it's really going to help the listeners today.
Yeah,
Super
absolutely. I'm so
excited.
excited. I'm super
Yay.
excited.
Thank you.
Whatever, I think with, our practice, one of our passions is to
Hmm.
empower and educate.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
anytime, we have an opportunity to do that,
Yeah.
we're more than happy.
That's her. I love it. So
Yeah.
they may not know this if you're not
Yes.
watching this on YouTube, but Aram is actually the sister of Crystal Sarbuland, who's been on here before. So if you're like,
Yes.
hey, that girl looks similar, they're sisters. That's why you're getting
Yes.
the vibe.
I'm
Even
the
though
big
you guys
sister.
you're very different, but like you definitely have the gene, like you can see that. But I love that you guys have a practice together. Matter of fact, will you
Yes.
tell everybody a little bit about your guys' practice and like kind of where
Yeah.
you're at? I would love that.
Absolutely. So Crystal and I started our own private practice a few
Hmm.
years ago, and
Yeah.
we're both licensed therapists, and we really open up our practice to a variety
Hmm.
of, individuals and populations. We do primarily work with adults, but we work with people who are
Yeah.
struggling with anxiety, who are
Sure.
struggling with depression,
Yeah.
who are struggling with trauma from their past,
Yeah.
who are struggling with relationship problems,
Yeah.
struggles in their faith. A lot of
Yeah.
our Christian clients are, struggling with faith crisis. And so we
Hmm.
really aim to create a safe space that's non-judgmental
I love
for
it.
them because a lot of Christians really don't have,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
a lot of spaces like that. They're afraid to be really honest
Yeah.
about what they're walking through because of past experiences. So our aim is to,
Okay.
again, really create that. And that's what we feel like the Lord had led us
Love it.
to do. Yeah.
I love that. And you guys do it so beautifully. And I'll tag it in the show notes if you're ever looking for someone in the California Inland Empire area. New Sahar is incredible counseling services. I'll probably just put like your Instagram or
Oh,
what your
yeah.
website, whatever you'd like. If you want to look them up, I'll be honest, they're incredible. So they're usually always booked, but you can get on a waiting list if you really need to get to someone. Because this is the thing is
Absolutely.
like she was saying, therapy is so beautiful, but I love that they are a faith-based ministry. So it's like they not only understand how everything works and how to help you walk through that, but they're also going to partner that with the Lord. And so it's just a beautiful space that I definitely am just blessed to have been a part of, and now be
Oh,
able to promote a little bit.
thank you so
So
much. Yeah.
I know I love it so much. So today I thought we could do something a little different since we're kind of getting close to the 100. Instead of just talking about a topic, I know that there's a lot of things that people have questions about therapy and
Oh,
just our lives, right? And so I
yeah.
would love to just give you some quick hits. I have like different categories today. And then I just would love your honest opinion. Like, is that truth? Is that a myth? Does it kind of depend?
Yeah.
Because I feel like if we can kind of back it up today, I think it's going to really help someone. So the first one I kind of want to hit is identity and growth. That's kind of the category.
Mhm.
And it's the
Mhm.
statement that just because you understand your trauma doesn't mean that you've healed from it. What would you say for
Mhm.
that one?
I would say that understanding your trauma is the first half
Sure.
of healing from it. And I think, when we have some kind of a physical condition, we spend a good amount of time of diagnosing it correctly in
Right.
order to treat it. We do
Hmm.
biopsies. If it's a serious condition, we stage
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And so in trauma work, we spend a lot of time to say, okay, how has the trauma impacted you? Has it
Hmm.
changed the way that you see yourself?
Yeah.
Have you now put up really strong, rigid boundaries with people? Do you have
Yeah.
walls up? Do you struggle with decision making?
Mhm.
Do you struggle with allowing people into your life? I mean, there's
Sheesh.
so many ways that trauma can manifest. So that's the
Yeah.
first half. And then depending
Mhm.
on what that, kind of assessment or
Sure.
understanding has shown us, then we can take the step. Okay, so because you struggle with decision making, because you
Yeah.
struggle with, now being vulnerable in relationships, that's now the second half. And
The next step.
how we kind of progress further. So it's like the first half. And
Sure.
I think any therapist that's like worth their salt understands, right?
Yeah.
That that's
It's a
the
process.
process, right?
Yeah.
It's like diagnosing appropriately, understanding it as much as we possibly
You
can,
can. Sure.
and then we start working towards allowing healing to take place, really.
Absolutely. But you're
Yeah.
right. Like that's knowing it isn't like what you can't just be like, I have anxiety. I have issues with
Right.
communication. I have depression. Like that is
Right.
the issue. That's the trauma. But I think there's this kind of newer society where people are like, I can finally identify what my thing is, which I think is powerful because you can't heal from something you won't admit is there, you don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I also think people almost identify with it like a badge and they almost
Mm.
wear it like, I understand. Like, I mean, it could be something heavy, like I've been abused or I was
Mhm.
neglected or whatever, right? But they almost they put this label on, but they don't actually then go, okay, now what are we doing to heal from that? It would be like getting a cancer diagnosis and you just go, I have cancer. I am cancer.
Right.
Instead of
Right.
going, what can we do? Is there some protocol? Is there some surgery I can have? Is there, a process? And I think that's where I see people kind of getting stuck. Like, do you see
Mm.
that? I mean, I know you can't divulge details, but like, do you see
Mhm.
that with clients where you can help them like address you have relational issues, but then they have a
Mhm.
hard time actually like putting in the work to get better and work through that?
I think what I see happen a lot is because of whatever root issue it is, whether it's
Mhm.
trauma, whether it was, a really difficult loss,
Yeah.
or a continuous constant chronic stress in their life.
Yeah.
When we go through that, it really changes us.
Yeah.
It forms us. And so now people have become, they want to heal. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
people come to therapy,
Sure.
right? Most of them really do
Want to get better.
genuinely want to get better, because it's a scary thing to come to therapy. It's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And so most of them are trying, but there's these blocks. And
Mhm.
so working through the blocks, because now they don't believe that they're good enough.
Sure.
They don't believe that they're able to overcome. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? And so it's like
Yeah.
we have to reframe, and because now people
Mhm.
see themselves in this way.
Yeah.
They see them, this is like they've told themselves a story about themselves and they're stuck
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
And so they see themselves in a very rigid way. And so what we
Sure.
work to do is open up their own perspective of themselves. That is a process in and of itself.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
can work on, okay, so
What are
now
we
that you
doing to fix
see
it?
yourself differently, like we have to reinforce that and
Sure.
reinforce and reinforce. It's a lot of work.
It's let's say it's like an unlearning of something that
Yes.
you've done for years. Like I remember one thing that Crystal would tell me all the time in therapy was like, you have to rewire your brain, and that
Right.
doesn't happen in a couple of months. That comes by repetitive,
Yeah.
whatever was there before, we're replacing it with something else over
Yeah.
and over and over. And then
Yeah.
over time, you can
Yeah.
rewire. I
Yeah.
think what the hard part is people will start and then it doesn't happen as quick as they want, or
Right.
they get frustrated, or other traumas
Mhm.
happen and they just
Mhm.
go, I don't even want to do this. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want that. But you're right. Knowing the trauma is not enough. It's
Yeah.
actually putting like the action in to go, okay, like, what am I going to do about it? And this is what I tell people. So what if it takes a year? So what if it takes 5? You
Yeah.
have 70, 80, maybe
Yes.
90 years of your life to live. Like,
Yes.
take that time and do the work because you never know how much better it's going to be when you get free
Yeah.
versus like getting in there and just handling it. So
Yeah.
I love that.
One thing else I'll say with
Hmm.
in terms of like learning a new skill or a practice or a new way of seeing
Yeah.
yourself, I often compare it to our physical health. Like if you go to the
Hmm.
gym and you really hone in for
Yeah.
like a year and you're training for a marathon or you're trying to
Come
lose
on.
weight, like you're putting that work in, but then you have to do the maintenance
Yeah.
for the rest of your
For your
life.
life. You
Like
can't
you're not
just
like,
stop after the year.
yeah, like, "Oh, now I stop
Yeah.
and I'm never gonna work out.
Ooh,
I'm,
girl, come on.
gonna eat whatever I want. I'm
Yeah.
never gonna, go to the
So
doctor."
good.
No, the maintenance is forever.
Constantly required. Mhm.
Exactly, and the same if
I love
we
that.
believe that about our physical health, the same is true about our
Has to
mental
apply
health.
to the mental health. Ooh,
Yeah.
girl, I love that. Okay, let's hop into another one. I love
Yeah,
it. Okay, so
absolutely.
this one is for like teens and kind of young
Yeah.
adults and just kind of their reality. A lot of teens and young adults make really bad decisions because their brains are not fully developed. So they shouldn't have to be held accountable. What do you think about that one?
I think that we hold preschoolers,
Hmm.
kindergartners
Yeah,
accountable for
yeah,
their behaviors, right? Like
yeah,
if they don't follow the rules in class,
hmm,
right? If they hit their neighbor, what do we do?
yeah.
We're like, okay, you're going to have to go in timeout.
There's a
Okay,
consequence.
you can't go to recess. You're going
Hmm.
to have this privileged mood. So if we're teaching 4 and 5-year-olds
Yep.
consequence, how much more so
Yeah.
teaching an adolescent who's really on the cusp
Right.
of entering the world and having to function there? Because so much of what we're
Yeah.
doing is teaching.
Yeah.
Right? From the
Yeah.
time that they're a baby to the time
Hmm.
that they're 18, that whole process is
Hmm.
teaching. This is, how you function in society,
Right.
right? This is how you function in relationships. Like
Yeah.
that's what in essence we're teaching. So if there
Yeah.
are a lot of consequences removed, it's really just detrimental
Sure. It's like
to
giving
them.
free reign to just go live, you know? And now
Yeah.
I, and now, like, I'd love to kind of preface this too. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so I believe the same way. Like, if we're not teaching, we're not helping, right? So I don't believe in the parenting style that goes, just let your kid do what they do because their brain's not developed and they don't know what they're doing. Like, come on.
Hmm.
Like, it says train up a child in the way they're supposed to go. I fully agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But how do we find that, like, maybe that grace window to go, my 14-year-old may not quite have all the ability to make
Yeah.
an informed decision as even like my 21-year-old, right? Like, how do we find the pockets? Do you feel like you just have to adjust based off like how many times you've had to correct them? Or like, how do we find certain grace without still kind of going, let them do what they want to do?
Yeah, well, I think there's obviously a lot of nuance to this,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Depending on the age, the situation they're struggling with, the challenge. But I think like the word that you said is really key, and that's giving grace, right?
Hmm.
Because
Right.
we're always learning.
Yeah.
Even when we're 25, 35, 45, 55, we're going to
Girl,
always
me too.
be learning, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say we start, a new job
Yeah.
and we've been working for 10 years, but now we're in a new company,
Hmm.
right? If
Yeah.
we're expected to never mess up, never make a mistake,
Right.
that's an unrealistic
So
expectation,
unrealistic.
right? Because they're never
Hmm.
falling into perfectionism. So that's not what we're saying. Again, I think
Mm,
we really need to lean on its guidance, direction, and teaching.
it's good.
And so even if someone is struggling, that's a perfect opportunity to be like, okay, sweetie, okay, bud, let's
That's where
talk
we're at.
about this. What
Hmm.
what are you struggling with? Opposed to
Yeah.
condemning and judging,
Yeah.
let's direct and let's guide, which is what Jesus does for us,
Absolutely.
right? He's
Absolutely.
so patient with us. He gives us chance after chance and
Over and over and over and
right? And
over.
he's
Yeah.
teaching and
Yeah.
guiding. Yeah.
And I think if I'm honest, I think I see a lot of parents that struggle with this because they have lived lives where they were like buck wild. And so
Mhm.
they have this fear that their
Mhm.
child is going to follow in the same footsteps. So when the child makes a mistake or the teenager does something dumb, like you said, they almost come with this condemning, like, no, you're not going to be that. That's not only does that make me look bad, but I don't want you to do what I did. And I think
Uh-huh.
sometimes we see like this projecting where like parents are
Well,
so afraid that they're going to follow the same pattern. Then it
uh-huh.
becomes this like, you can't do that. And the kids just wind up kind of rebelling because it's like, I can't make you happy. It's never enough. I hear kids all the time say, I'm not you, mom. I'm not
Yeah.
you, dad. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do you, let's even do it from the younger perspective. Let's do it from the
Sure.
kids' perspective. Let's say I had
Sure.
a parent who did all the wrong things. Now they're believers. They're raising me in
Uh,
the ways of the Lord. And then I'm making a mistake as, somebody under 18. And
uh-huh.
they're constantly making me feel like, I'm them and they're so fearful. Like, how could a younger person communicate to their parent, like, hey, I know that I still need to be corrected, but I'm not you
Uh-huh.
without, getting in trouble
Yeah.
or like feeling like they're mouthing off? What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
I would say just be honest about what you need from your parent.
It's good.
Like communicate to them, right? Like, I just need you to listen.
Hmm.
I need you to hear where I'm coming from and not
Yeah.
make snap assumptions or
Yeah.
judgments. They may not use that language, right?
Sure.
But I think a lot of what, I will, encourage my parents to do is validate.
Hmm.
Just listen because I think oftentimes, and I get it, like, as adults and parents and mentors, we want to fix.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, well,
Instant.
what do we need to do?
Yeah.
Let's fix it, opposed to
Mm-hmm.
like really trying to enter into what someone is experiencing and
Hmm.
really try to take an empathetic approach and be like,
Mm.
okay, this is a hard thing to do. This is why most
Yeah.
people don't do it,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's hard to step into something and be like, okay, I don't have a solution. I don't have, an answer
Yeah.
right now, but I can only imagine how hard that is. And I'm sorry. And just sit with them in
Hmm.
their pain,
Yeah, because
sit
even
with them
that I
in the
think is so
frustration.
like so powerful for a parent to say that. I think as a kid, if you went, "This is what I need," and they went, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm gonna listen to you, and I'm so sorry." Like even that, it builds a connection versus like
Yeah,
you're not gonna right. That puts the
right,
wall up, and sometimes I think we overcomplicate it, and it just needs
right.
to be that simple. Like state what you need, but then also validate them so that there can still be a consequence without silent treatment and being so
Right.
angry you're not talking to them and like you don't want to do nothing. And so I
Yeah,
love that. I think that's honestly, it's a very simple, but it's a very truthful response of just listen and communicate your needs and don't just go to your assumptions, but like really hear them out and walk that out. It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah. And I
I
think
love
just
that.
being collaborative, like, okay,
Hmm.
let's work together. We'll
Sure.
figure it out.
Yeah.
So you're offering comfort, but you're also working together. So I think both of those are really powerful
Absolutely. Yeah.
for any young person to
I
have.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. All right, let's hit another one. I love
Yeah.
these. See, look at, isn't this beautiful? Like, it's so nice to hear
It's
someone from a perspective who's worked with people. Like, this is what you do, right? Because we would like over spiritualize it. Like, you got to pray, you got to go to Bible
yeah.
study, you got to ask Jesus. We're like, no, you need to listen to your kid and just pull it back a few
Yeah.
few notches.
And God will, Holy Spirit will give you wisdom. Like,
Yes,
okay, Lord,
totally.
give me wisdom.
Hmm.
Help me to even
Yeah.
regulate my own emotions because then for parents, there's their
Mm,
own anxiety coming into
sure.
play and all kinds of things
Sure.
like that. Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, so the next category is for family and upbringing. And the
Hmm.
statement is, and this kind of ties in, so I think it'll be perfect. Overbearing parents can actually push their kids further away from God and them. What would you say?
I mean, I feel like if we're talking even about that word,
Hmm.
overbearing,
Yeah.
it really kind of, if we look at the definition, it's like domineering,
Yeah.
right? It's controlling. And so, who really would want
Hmm.
to be in a
Right.
relationship, right, where they're feeling that? And
Yeah.
again, I'm going to really just compare this to how the Lord gives us free will.
Yep.
If he gives us free will to make choices,
Mm.
right? Then, okay, let's give, even when I said, like I was talking about earlier, when I worked with little ones, 0 to 5, for a part of my career for a few years, and
Wow.
I learned a lot about human
Yeah.
nature
I'm sure.
just working with 0 to 5 year olds.
Yeah.
And, we would even give them choice, right? To feel
Wow.
like they had a little bit of control and power. And so, even
Yeah.
if it's like, okay, you have two choices. Do you want green peas or do you want carrots? Do you want to wear
Yeah.
your red dress or your blue? So they would feel like, okay, I have
Mm.
some autonomy,
Yeah.
right, in my
It's
life,
beautiful.
which makes them feel a little empowered, confident, safe. And
Right.
so it's really important to give some choice,
Hmm.
some autonomy,
Yeah.
I think is really key because
Yeah.
then if we feel so controlled, right?
Hmm.
The minute that we have a little bit of freedom, I mean,
Yeah.
you've probably seen this. I know I've
Yeah.
seen this, when
Yeah.
I went to college, like, I mean, there were a lot of kids, who
Yeah.
were just really in strict households. And the
Yeah.
minute that they had a little bit of freedom in it, they just went buck
They
wild.
went crazy. Yeah.
Yes, because of that,
Yeah.
and so instead of that, okay, let's give them a little bit of freedom, a little bit of independence, a
Mhm.
little bit of freedom, a little bit of independence, and so
Yeah.
but that again also builds confidence,
Yeah.
right? And so having some of that, giving people the ability to make some choice
Mhm.
is, I think, a really vital piece, even from the time that they're young, again, let alone to when they're young adults or teenagers.
That's so I never even thought about that. Like, asking your toddler, do you want this fruit snack or do you want this? Like sometimes we just do that out of, normal reaction. But it's different when you just go, this is what you're having. It's almost building that processor in them. Like you do have a choice. There is something that you can choose, but I get to
Right.
control, some of it, like
Yeah.
maybe what's on the
Right.
table. Like it was
Right.
funny when you were saying that, it like triggered this memory. Growing up, my mom like always packed our lunches. It was like back in the
Mm.
day when like
Mhm.
everybody
Yeah.
took brown paper bag lunches. And and we always had there was me and my 2 brothers, and we always had, like, very different styles. So, like, we my mom would buy the same things, like, we would all get a sandwich, we would all
Right.
get a chip, we would all get a dessert, and, like, usually, like, a Corn Nuts. Corn Nuts was always, like, the go-to. But the packs would always come with different flavors. My mom wouldn't just go, "What do you want for lunch?" But she would always ask us, like, "What kind of chips do you want? Which corn nuts do you want?" And she would, like, even learn the different ones we needed. You just kinda think that's normal, but you're right, that was already teaching, like, "Hey, I'm not just putting something in your bag and that's what you're having because that's what I said." You're
Right.
actually going, I picked the overall things that I want for you, like, I'm building this bubble that's healthy for you, but even
Mhm.
in it, I'm letting you learn how to make those decisions. There's a difference in teaching and training and being so overbearing that it's like that. This is what you're doing because I said so, right?
Mhm.
And I just see that a lot. Like, matter of fact, a couple of episodes past, I had a high school student come on and I asked her, like, what is one of the biggest challenges today? And she just said, when your parents are like overbearing and smothering, it really makes us become sneaky and we want to hide and we want to like check out and not do stuff. And I had a lot of parents who were like, I don't believe that. And I get it because it feels scary to go. We're
Mhm.
not saying in any way pull off and go let your kids do what they
No.
want, but
Yeah.
we're saying create spaces. If you do it when they're little, create spaces like you're going to go with your friends today. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to go. Who's there? I'm still going to check on, is
Right.
there a parent available? But I'm not
Right.
going to sit on the side while you're right there with your friends and watch you for the next 2 hours without giving you any minutes to be by yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to give space for them to grow within the
Yeah.
parameters. But then as they
Yeah.
get older, they learn under your umbrella. Like my parents were extremely strict, but we had so many choices and so many
Mm.
spaces to grow. So I
Mhm.
felt like by the time, and I was probably more blessed, I was the baby. So by the time
Mm.
I got there, they were a little more lenient.
Mm.
I didn't go crazy when I turned 18 because
Mhm.
I felt like I had decisions I could make, even some that were stupid, but I did it under the safety umbrella of still being able to come to
Right.
them. And so I think that's just a hard part for some parents is just going, how do I be protective, but how do I not smother at the same time?
Yeah, and again, it's not an all or nothing thing. There is a
Yeah,
middle ground, and I think this is where, again, the communication
yep,
and collaboration part comes in. Just talk to your
wholeheartedly.
kids,
Come on.
right? Just talk to them. Like,
Yeah,
even if you're like, hey, there's this event coming up. Okay, this is what I'm concerned about. Talk to them about it.
yeah,
Like your kids do have knowledge,
yeah,
right? They
yeah.
do
They
have
have
like
a brain.
insider, yeah, they have, and so we're developing that because also
Hmm.
if we don't allow them to decision make,
Hmm.
when they get older, they're gonna really struggle with that
Come on.
because 'cause they're not gonna trust their own
Instinct.
intuition,
And,
their own God-given instincts. They're
yeah,
gonna and I see that all the time in
yeah,
therapy. I see
yeah.
so many adults who struggle with decision making, and
Wow.
so that is really significant to allow them to decision make.
Yeah. Ooh, that's so good. I mean, it's true because if you have never had to make those decisions, that has never built in you as a habit. So then you
Right.
become an adult and we go, where do you want to go to college? What do you want to do with your life?
Right.
What relationships do you want? Now someone's not watching you 24/7. I don't,
Yes.
it's like an overstimulation. They're like, I don't know. So then they just go off however they feel. And we usually see people make really stupid decisions in that 18 to 30 range
Yeah.
because they're trying to figure it out. Where you're saying, like, build those decision making things in your home with your family. Like, let your kids make mistakes sometimes and then talk it out
Yeah.
with them. Give
Right.
them an option. You can
Right.
go to school or you can ditch. But if you ditch, there's going to be a
Yeah.
consequence, right?
Yeah.
Without just going, I'm going to smother you 24/7 so you don't. It's like you're actually allowing them to grow in your house instead of just oversee them all the time. And so
Yeah.
it's a hard boundary, but I love the communication side of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, just like, one of my default is two choices, whether that's a
Okay.
little one or a
I
teenager.
love that.
Two choices is I think a really good technique, right? Because it gives them
Yeah.
some, again, autonomy, but
Yeah.
it also limits it
What they can
where
or cannot
it's
do. Yeah.
exactly,
I love versus
exactly.
instead of the no. Like, we could do this or you can do this, but the other one's just not on the table
Right.
instead of just going, it's a no.
Exactly. It's like, okay, if you do this, there's going to be this consequence,
Hmm.
or you do this and there's this
It's going to be
consequence.
this.
You
It's still an
choose.
option.
So either way, they're learning.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. All right, let's hit one under relationships and dating. I love this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, so this one is if you're not whole on your own, let me start over. If you're not whole on your own, a relationship will expose that, not fix it. I love this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think if there are significant areas we're
Yeah,
struggling with
yeah.
individually,
Hmm.
being in a relationship will absolutely amplify that.
Amplify that.
For sure, because I think about just even like our attachment styles, and I think Crystal's
Hmm.
probably talked about this a bit as
Yeah.
well. But if you struggle with your sense of self,
Yeah.
right, and you have an insecure attachment, and you don't know how to self-soothe,
Yeah.
the minute that your partner starts feeling distant,
Hmm.
right? The minute that there is conflict, you don't know how to handle that on your own. And so you're so
Right.
dysregulated and so
Mm.
anxious that you're just like calling, knocking to get reassurance
Yeah.
from them, right?
Mm.
Opposed to like settling on your own, being able to still go about your day on your own, right? So if we have again
Yeah.
like an anxious attachment style, it's really debilitating.
Yeah.
It's really debilitating because until you get reassurance from your partner, from that person, and they say,
Yeah.
"We're okay," you are so anxious,
Yeah.
right? You can't it's so hard to even function
To
in
even
your
live your normal
day.
day. Hmm.
Exactly. And so, being able to identify, why do I struggle
Hmm.
with an anxious attachment?
Hmm.
First, understanding it, I'd be like, okay, I'm learning to self-soothe, that I'm going to be okay. It's not going to be the end of the world,
Yeah.
right? Learning to do that first. So then because there inevitably will be tension,
Sure.
right? There inevitably will be misunderstandings. We
Yeah.
can navigate that from a more just level-headed, regulated place, opposed to
Absolutely.
anxious,
Hmm.
being on edge, which does not lead obviously to
It
good
never
things.
ends well, right? Well, and I
Yeah.
see this a lot with text messaging right now. Like if
Yeah.
somebody has a struggle with security or
Yeah.
they've been very like needed to be validated or seen by somebody when they're in a relationship, there'll be this like I text them and I didn't get a response for a long time, and
Yeah.
then they start going to all of like I've seen people go from 0 to 100. Like I think
Yeah.
she's mad and she hasn't
Yeah.
responded back to me and she should be home from work by now and da da. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, like maybe something happened at work. Maybe they had something going on, but they'll go to this like extreme and then that person will text them and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry my phone battery died and I, had to charge it or whatever." And then they're like, "Okay." But for those 5 or 6 hours, they lived in complete despair and like frustration and anxiousness. That's
Yeah.
something that you got to deal with because if you don't, then you're also putting that pressure on your partner
For
to feel
sure.
like they have to because they'll say things like, "Listen, I just need you to respond because that's my personality." Okay,
Mm.
like I understand you might be a text person, that's good. But if that person feels the pressure of like, if I don't hit you back in the minute, they're gonna go into like a full out
Right.
like moment, that's really unhealthy and that's gonna cause some like I mean so much trauma, right? Like even for your
Yeah.
your partner eventually
Yeah.
down the road. So like if someone sees that in themselves, like let's say even just something like that, if a partner doesn't respond quick enough or if they're not getting
Mhm.
enough feedback and they're getting super anxious, like where do you
Mhm.
think would be like a good starting place to go, hey, I probably need to kind of address that so that I don't just feel
Mhm.
like that's just how I am in relationships?
Yeah. I think it's important to learn how to self-regulate and self-soothe.
Come on.
It's foundational life
Yes.
skill. I wouldn't even say mental health skill.
Yeah,
I would
in
say being
general.
able to regulate your emotions and be able
Hmm.
to calm and center yourself
Yeah.
is a foundational life
Yeah.
skill.
Yep.
Because if you're able to do that, you're going to be able to navigate work better, your
Yep.
relationships better, right?
Yep.
Even your spiritual life better. If you're like, wait,
Come on.
hold on, let me just pause, right? Let
Yeah.
me think about what I'm going to do. Because when we default to dysregulation, we're reactive.
Right.
So a lot of people are just reacting. They're not
Yep.
pausing and thinking,
Yeah.
right? And we have to be real. And if we can talk about text messaging and
Yeah.
communicating, that could be a whole different
I
podcast
know
because there's
that
a
could be
lot
like a
of
whole
new,
pod, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of nuance to that, and I think
Hmm.
it's important to communicate about how you want to communicate.
Like what your needs are. Hmm.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because one person thinks, "Oh, 2 hours is no big deal."
Right.
Another person thinks that's an eternity. So,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
talk about and it may feel awkward to have those conversations, but we live in
Hmm.
a different world
We do.
now, and so
Yeah.
that stuff can be really triggering for people. So
Hmm.
just talk about, "Okay, I'm not a good texter. If I'm, busy during the day, I'll text you when I get home." And so then we know that person's patterns, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we're just tired.
Yeah.
We
It's
just
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 life.
we're just tired, and that's why I
Yeah.
didn't get back. But then if
Yeah.
we push it beyond, like, days, and then you
Hmm.
see that person puts up a story on Instagram that they haven't
Yeah.
texted you,
That's when the brain goes like, "You purposely did it." Yeah.
But it's like but I think there is something important there in terms of what are our priorities?
Come on.
You know, is my priority to invest and cultivate my relationships, or
Okay.
is it to put a post on social media? So there
Yeah.
is something there to that as well, I
Ooh, I
believe.
love that. Yeah, because I mean, I'll just make this personal. Like, even for me, I'm a big texter. Like, I would rather text message than talk on the phone.
Sure.
But I'm usually pretty good at when I'm even in a friendship or something like that, kind of getting a feel of like how that person is.
Right.
But my lifestyle is also very busy. So, like,
Mhm.
if I'm available, I'll hit you back quick. But there's just some days there's going to be 5 minutes. Like right now, I'm recording, right? If someone's
Yeah.
messaging me, I'm not going to get back to you for a while.
Mhm.
But at the same point, I am a content creator, so I am constantly, even sometimes as
Mm.
work, posting things online. And even I've
Mhm.
had people go, "You didn't text me back, but then you posted something online." And I'll go, "Well, I actually have something set up where they're like automated. So I actually wasn't
Mm.
on my phone, but this is what happened."
Mm.
But they will build this story around like, "You purposely
Mhm.
didn't message me back and you're not good with me and da da da." And I'm like, "No, not at all." So I also tell people like, just don't assume. Like, take a minute,
For
and it's
sure.
totally okay for you to message me like, "Hey, why did it take so long?" Or, "Hey, I felt offended by this." I'm big enough to go, "Oh, no, 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 honey, I already had that preloaded," or, "Hey,
Okay.
this is what happened today." But I think when we assume, then it causes these things in us, right? And then we start
Ah,
dating someone or we get married, and then
yeah.
we've built this thing, and then
Yeah.
our husband or whatever doesn't text us back right away. And we think like they're cheating on us, and like he's
Right.
with somebody. And so there's all of I think the assumptions is kind of even what I feel it's like so many people don't know how to just communicate and say what they need or be honest about even if it was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I did get caught up and I had my
Yeah.
phone down." Just being
Yeah.
honest. But if you don't address that, it is not healthy. And I've seen so many people in relationships where, they'll say, "My husband or wife is just this way and I have to do this and this." And I'm like,
Mhm.
we should probably work on that. Like it might
Mhm.
be okay for you to put some effort in there.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you said that because there is nuance to this.
Yeah.
As you said, right? Like for
Yeah.
you, like you said, you're a content creator. So, okay, this is automated for me. So,
Yeah.
okay, then that person is aware of that, right?
Yeah.
And then I
Mhm.
think I want to add to that is we need to look at patterns,
Yeah.
right? And so if you notice that there's a pattern
Sure,
of
that's good.
feeling like this person isn't investing like I am, if they're
Mhm.
not reciprocating,
It's good.
then we have to pause and reevaluate that
Yeah.
type of thing, right? If it's a one-off, we can give people grace, right? That's
Sure.
okay. Like
Yeah.
you're human, life happens. But again,
Yeah.
if it's something that's ongoing, then we just maybe have to even shift expectations and
Yeah.
accept, okay,
This is just where it's at, and I love that too.
exactly.
Sometimes that changes, in some
Yeah,
seasons, some person has
yeah,
that ability and the next season they don't, and you do have to kind
yeah,
of evaluate and go, is this a good fit for me right now?
yeah.
But that's hard. That's a part of growing up and adulting, and
Yes.
again, I think having, and this is probably a whole episode too, but like having those honest, hard conversations, like this is something that is important to me, or I need someone who, not in a crazy way, but I need someone who
Right.
can communicate at least by the end of the day, because even I have some
Right.
people, even in my family who, I'll just put them on blast because they know I love them, but they won't text me back for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I've had the conversation
Yeah,
with them, right?
yeah,
Like, what is going on? Like, why does it take you
yeah.
5 days to hit me back? And like, even one of
Right.
them, I'll just say, because we've actually talked about it, was my brother. He's a
Mm,
big phone call person, where like, again,
mm,
I'm a messenger. And so I had
mhm,
messaged him about something. He didn't hit me back for like 5 days. And so finally I
mm.
just picked up the phone. I called him and I was like, dude, like, I got to know what's going on. And then he tells me
Yeah,
back, he goes, you should have just picked up the phone and called me. And then he
mm,
went through this whole thing of all the stuff he had going on that week. And he's like, I've
mm,
got so many messages. I haven't even been on it. Next time, just
mm,
call me. I promise I'll pick it up. But sometimes you have to
mm.
be willing to actually have that conversation instead
Yeah,
of going like, oh, it's okay. And then you secretly harbor, they
right.
didn't really prioritize me and they didn't, right? It was so much better for
Exactly.
me to go, "Hey, that kinda hurt my feelings. Like,
Yeah,
can you tell me why?" And then once we hashed out, I know if he needs to get a hold of me, he texts me, and if I
yeah,
need to get a hold of him, I call him because we've learned
exactly.
each other's, like, even love
Rhythm.
language in a way,
Yeah,
right? I think
yeah,
today people are so afraid of just having that conversation, especially with boyfriends and girlfriends or someone you're
yeah,
dating. It's okay to
yeah.
tell somebody your needs, but you can't expect that they know. You can't expect that
Mhm,
because it's the way that you are that
right,
they respond the same way. And that's where I think sometimes it's learning those communication skills, which is another
right.
reason why a lot of people go to therapy to learn how to
Yes.
communicate.
Absolutely. No,
You're like,
I
"We're
totally
gone."
agree with everything you're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much nuance to all of
Mhm.
this, and these are difficult conversations, but we can have
Yeah.
them in a way that's not confrontational.
Yeah.
We can just be like, "Hey, I just wanna check in. Hey, I haven't heard from you. Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
Or like, "I've noticed you've been" like, I've had these conversations with friends
Yeah.
myself, like, "Hey, you felt kinda distant, just
Yeah.
checking in,"
Yeah.
And then they're able, "Oh, I'm sorry."
This is
They
what's going on.
express remorse,
Mhm.
and then at least now they know that I notice because I care,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah.
wanna be connected to them, and it is
Mm.
scary, right? Like, it
Yeah.
is vulnerable to
Mhm.
be like, "I'm not hearing from you, and it hurts
You hurt
me."
my feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
but I think people, I mean, that's a whole again, a whole
Again,
another thing we
we
can
have all
get
these little
to,
side pockets
right?
off of the
But,
the kids. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I
Mhm.
think, again, what we're saying is, like, just be honest. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be super scary, and we can have these conversations in a way
Yeah.
that's not, like, angry or confrontational, but just
Sure.
honest and vulnerable and
Yeah.
soft even.
Yeah, and if you do it once it's like in the beginning phases, it doesn't build to something where then there's some blow up, right?
Yeah,
And nobody's ever ready to like maybe have the conversations, but when you just honestly start, then it
yeah,
doesn't wait till you hit and then a tornado goes off and then it's like we had
um,
this huge fight and now we're mad, you know? So
exactly,
hopefully people
exactly.
can take this and get some little boldness to communicate
Yes,
a little
yes,
bit.
amen, amen.
Okay, I have one more category and then I have a final question. So the
Yep.
last one is the mental health. The statement is not everything is trauma. Sometimes it's just lack of self discipline. I have so many thoughts on this, but I'm gonna let you go first.
I think I think it's an interesting topic,
Okay.
because so I won't go too far into the weeds with this, but there's a lot
Okay.
of theory going around even in our field
Hmm.
regarding the roots of things. And there
Yeah.
there is this sector of, people in our field who
Hmm.
believe that the root of most diagnoses is trauma.
Hmm.
And so there is that theory. And so that
Yeah.
again is a whole nother thing to dig into. But what I will say is that I would be hesitant to assume that anything is laziness or lack of discipline.
Hmm.
Because even if you are struggling with completing tasks,
Hmm.
if you are struggling with getting out of bed, there's a root to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have been through trauma will seek out safety and comfort above
Yeah.
all else.
Yeah.
If you really think about that,
Hmm.
if a person is seeking out comfort and safety above all else, what are they not doing,
Hmm.
right? Because of that trauma, they want to feel safe. And
Yeah.
so getting out of their comfort zone, doing things that they haven't done feels really scary. And we're
Yeah.
not condoning it.
Right.
We're not saying to continue with, but we understand it,
Yeah.
right? And so I have a lot of clients who'll be like, well, maybe I'm just lazy, or my family says
Hmm.
I'm lazy. And I'm like, I don't really believe that.
Yeah.
I believe there's a root to it if you're struggling, right?
Yeah.
With motivation, that's
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a past trauma. So I lean towards there's always a root
Yeah.
to something. Yeah.
I love it. I think I totally agree. Like, I feel like sometimes I think that this generation has so much mental health issues and they're being more vocal about it. And people are even talking about more traumas now that, like, I've heard even the older generation say, like, we didn't have all that, like, sissy, we're just here to
Yep.
be soft and, like, you got to be tough and go through it. No, we're actually just being more healthy and being honest about the stuff we went through. And they'll say things like, well, they just need to suck it up or they're just being lazy or they're just this. And what I hear you saying is, like, don't just assume, like, there is probably something underneath it. We're not saying it's okay for them to be in bed all day. It's okay for them to not be
Right.
motivated, but we're not just going, you just got to be grown like I'm grown. The truth is,
Right.
half of those adults who make those statements have never even addressed their own traumas, their own
Right.
stuff. And so they've just suppressed it and learned how to do their best. And they probably have their own little explosive moments or whatever because it's not healthy. But I also think it is key to go, yes, there's something building in me. Like we hear this statement a lot that this younger generation is very lazy.
Mm.
And I've seen pieces of that. I've seen
Mhm.
pieces where maybe some cultures and
Mm.
even families have been a little soft and not
Mm.
motivating them to do
Mhm.
anything, right? Like, you don't
Right,
have to
right,
work. You could
right,
live at my house till you're 30 and just live on the couch.
right,
That's a no.
right.
But like
Yeah,
we've seen some of that, but I'm actually seeing a lot more where when you talk to people, you're like, this is what happened in my childhood. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have the, you're starting to see reasons why that behavior is actually there. And so I
uh-huh,
love that you're saying, look at what's below it. Don't just put a title on what looks like, well, my kid just
right,
is depressed or my kid just has
yeah,
this or he's just lazy. No, there's probably actually some reason that they're going through that.
right,
It's not always a lack of self discipline. Sometimes it's just them needing to work through some healing. And so, again, I think these are all kind of so crazy. These are all kind of stemming. I think it's communication. It's talking about why do you feel like you don't want to get out of bed? Like why do you not want to get a job? What's the
right,
motivation in not wanting to get out there and
right,
start a career? Let's talk about what's underlying, not just stop
right,
being lazy and get off the couch.
right,
It's like there can be a
right,
better way to kind of motivate, but
right.
it's hard. These days we're motivating people with love, but there definitely has to be some understanding. So,
Absolutely, and I think there's a way to we can find a balance in all of
hmm
this where it's like, okay, I have, like you said, a lot of the younger generation
yeah,
is anxious about driving,
yeah,
right?
a
And
lot,
so,
so many of them.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so it's like, they're like, well, I'm anxious about, so I'm just not going to do it,
yeah.
right? Because I'm anxious. Well, actually, how we overcome the thing is
Whew.
doing the thing,
Hmm.
right? If I'm
Yeah.
scared of driving, then I am not going to get any better by
Nope.
avoiding,
Nope.
right? So we still have to slowly step into those
Yeah.
things, right? So we understand, okay, you're anxious. Let's
Yeah.
deal with the anxiety and simultaneously start taking some small steps
Mhm.
to overcome. So it's both.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
nice balance. Like, you're not coddling the, "Okay, you don't wanna drive," because I see that a lot. I have
Hmm.
tons of kiddos who are, like, 19, 20 years old, and they're not driving, and
Yeah.
their parents are like,
Yeah.
"They just don't want to. They're just not to." I'm like, "Come on, how are they gonna get a job? They can't drive, right?" But you're also not
Right.
just pushing it, you're going, "Let's figure out how to build some safer spaces around the process. Let's set up some driver's lessons. Let's go in a parking lot
Right.
where there's not a lot of people. Let me show you that you can do this." I think if
Right.
we have that balance, it gets them past that versus just going, "No," or kinda being so overbearing, so I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
so I have
Exactly.
one. I love these, by the way. I was like, these are going to be
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
good little hot takes today from a
Yeah.
therapist
For
perspective. So
sure.
I have a final question that you could just say whatever you want. But I think everybody always thinks this. And so I was like, let's just throw this one in.
Mm.
So, as a therapist, what is something that you wish you could say, but you don't?
Mm.
Or you usually don't, I should say, because you're saying
Yeah.
it now. So,
I think one of the things, well, actually, just a couple of things. I'll say two things.
okay.
I think you really got to be mindful about your expectations
Hmm.
in therapy. And I think that goes along with the second part, which is there has to be intention outside of session,
Come on, girl.
because again, I'm going to compare this to our physical health. If you get a trainer, they show you exercises, but you only do it with your trainer once a week, right?
It's not enough.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
have to implement.
So good.
Like I give a lot of my clients like handouts and worksheets and
Yeah.
homework, and I get it, we're all busy. Like
Yeah.
it's hard. But if you make time to go to the gym 5 times a week,
Come
because
on.
if I don't do that, I'm not going to get the results that
Yeah.
I want because one time a week with my trainer is not going to be enough. Like, obviously, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But with
Totally.
mental health, people struggle with
They're
that.
like, "I've been in therapy for like a month." You're like, "You only go twice a month and that you don't put in any work after side of the session."
Yeah, there has to be that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
mental health is not a passive
Mm-mm.
endeavor. It is
Mm-mm.
very intentional.
Intentional.
It is so like you have to really work
Yeah.
and practice and try, and
Yeah.
like, oh, it's hard. I'm like, I know.
Yeah. Like, trust me, we've all been there too. Like, it's everything takes work. Uh-huh.
Change is hard.
Yeah.
Change is really hard, but it's possible. Because a lot of
Absolutely.
things that I teach my clients, like I've learned myself and
Same.
I've
Yeah.
done myself. I'm like, I know
Mm-hmm.
it's hard, but it's possible.
You can
Because
do
a lot of
this.
them have these blocks like, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. But it's like, yeah, it is. But one
It is.
day because you do it again and you do it again
It will
and
get
it's going
easier.
to become your new default, which is what we're trying to do for a lot of people is create a default in them.
So good.
Right? A new way of thinking, a new perspective, a new
Yeah.
way of communicating. So
Love it.
practice, repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you go to therapy and you get tools, but if they just sit in your belt and they never
Yeah.
get used, so what? So you
Yeah.
have the, hey, I know what my trauma is, or I know that I have stuff in my past, or I know I have a weird attachment issue, or whatever. But if it's
Yeah.
just sitting there, it's not helping you to just know what it is. Like you have to heal from it. It would almost be like in a church, someone being like, "Oh, I know I have a spirit that's on me." Okay, great.
Mhm.
Well, what are we doing to get rid of that? Like,
Right.
what now? What are the steps we're taking to like heal and to have some deliverance and get free? Like, I think it comes even to that working together. Like God works all things together, but that scripture says it works. That means there's
Mm.
effort. That means that
Yeah.
you are going to have to cry sometimes. That means you are going to have to put in some effort. It means that it's not always going to be comfortable, but when you do that work, in the end, all those things will come together. And I think we're in this microwave generation where everyone wants
Mhm.
to like, can I come to you and you could fix it as a pastor? Can I come to you as a therapist and you
Yeah.
could fix it? And we
Yeah.
go, here's a tool, go do the work. And they're like,
Yes.
oh, that's too hard.
Yes.
Welcome to life.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to life. It was probably hard
Yeah.
for Jesus to go to the cross too, but he didn't
Yeah.
send, you know what I mean? Like, think
Yeah.
about that. Like, Jesus was literally that example to us. Like, he came to the earth and did the work of the
Yes.
Lord. He like
Yeah.
became man, he became flesh, he made all these sacrifices. He lived on the earth and never got to have a woman or get married or have anything but like he just came to sacrifice so that
Mhm.
he could put in that work to fulfill what God wanted. So we cannot sit there and go, well, Christianity or even just my life should just be easy. There's always going to be work involved,
Yeah.
but God will give you the tools to do that. And so I actually love that because I see people who kind of, sadly, they will even use therapy as a crutch. Like, well, I'm
Right.
going to therapy. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's good, but I'm not seeing a
Right.
lot of fruit
Mhm.
because you haven't
Mhm.
really put in a lot of work yet, right? Because it's not just a
Mhm.
place to vent, it's a place to get a tool,
Right.
identify some things, and then continue to put in that work. And so
Right.
there's a partnership. So I love
Yes.
that. I think that was
Yes.
I think that was the most honest answer too. She's like, girl, listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real struggle for
hmm
therapists.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think
Yeah.
it's a real struggle for many of them, even for us when it's like, okay, some things they're gonna be tougher
Yeah.
to work through and to
Sure.
overcome. But if we have a client who's not working as hard as we are. Like,
hmm
me and Chris say we work really hard in our sessions. We
Yes.
work really hard. We're in it that whole hour. We give,
Yeah.
resources, we give homework, we prepare. So
Yep.
if I'm working hard
And you're
in a
not.
session
hmm
and we're a team and you're not working hard and you're not
Yeah.
meeting me halfway, then who's
It's
going to
not gonna
suffer
work.
the most?
Yep.
You
You are.
are.
Yeah. Isn't that
Um,
crazy? But I love that because it's a challenge to people. Like, God will give you the things, the resources you need, but you still got to put that effort in yourself and to apply it. So,
yeah, yeah,
well, girl, I have loved these little quick hit hot takes today. I feel like we got lots of little topics and I love just your perspective. I also love how just real and honest you are. And so thank you so much for coming
absolutely.
on.
Yeah,
Thank you for who you are. Thank you for
absolutely.
helping the kingdom. Again, I'm going to tag New Sahar and their information
Yeah,
below. If you want to get a hold of Erim or Crystal, they are fabulous. I highly recommend them. But again, thank you so much for coming on. You and your
absolutely.
beautiful hair. We were talking about it before the thing. I was like, girl, can you give me your hair? Because Erim has like the most beautiful hair. I'm like,
Oh,
girl, let's
you're a
trade.
sweet girl. No, it's been such an honor for me to be here. And again,
Thanks.
we are so passionate about
hmm
empowering people and educating
Yes.
people. And so I think what you're doing is such a blessing to
Thank
so
you.
many. And honestly, I think this is
Thank
so
you.
important and
Thank
it's
you.
so necessary. And,
Yeah.
every person that, is empowered and given
hmm
wisdom, it's it's an amazing work.
Absolutely. And it's just a blessing to have a platform to reach people that, we may never walk into the room, but the voice
Right.
or the YouTube or the Spotify can.
Yeah.
And so that's just why I'm so grateful to be able to have this. So thank you so
Yes.
much.
You're so
All right,
welcome.
break. Thanks, girl. All right,
Yeah.
break the box. That's it for episode 99. Listen, next week is episode 100. I cannot wait for you to hear the special guest that I have planned. We're kind of flipping the script next time, so you are going to not want to miss it. But until next week, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.